Hi, welcome back. I am Trina Boice, and I'm here today with an extremely talented, handsome, kind, smart ladies he's taken guest today. My guest is the fabulous Garth Smith.
Oh,
Yay! Round of applause.
Trina, it's so nice to be with you. I've been excited about this. We've talked about this for a while, and I've really been looking forward to talking with you.
I have too. And so, just so everybody knows, I just recently got to meet Garth. We were both speaking at a conference
Yes.
last month, and I immediately fell in love. And I said, "Oh, I have to interview you. You're so awesome." And then I've been listening to his music ever since. Well, I did before too, but now it's like I'm obsessed. I'm your biggest fan now.
Well, let's tell the story. What happened? So we were meeting with some of the presenters of that conference for a dinner,
Yeah.
and guess who I just happened to sit next to at the dinner? Trina
I
Boice.
totally won the lottery on best person to sit next to. And Garth was so sweet because I
We
had
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 a lot
foot
of fun.
surgery, so I was wearing this boot, this big bulky boot. And so
Oh,
we kind
that's
of,
right.
there was this huge long table, and there were some some spaces where there was a lot of foot space, and then there was this tiny space. And he said, "No, no, no, I'll sit here so you have more room for your boot." And so, like, that just tells you what an amazing, nice guy Garth is. So
Oh, well,
thank you
thank you.
again for that. And I enjoyed our conversation that night so much. And like I said to you, I could spend hours more talking to you because you're such a fun, interesting guy and so
Oh, thank
sweet.
you. Well, thank
So,
you. It was fun. It was a very fun evening.
and the food was good too.
Yeah.
So, in case you don't know who Garth Smith is, he's a wonderful musician, but give everybody a little bit of your background and how you got started in the business side of producing and selling your music.
Okay, I'd be glad to. Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I'd like to say hello to all your listeners, and what a great opportunity it is to be here talking with Trina. And I started in the music business, I guess, as a musician. I started playing the piano when I was 5 years old. And so my mother was a piano teacher, and I was just playing all my life. And I was one of these weird students who she didn't have to say, practice, practice, because I actually loved practicing even as a little kid. And I just enjoyed the challenge of learning a new piece, and it was just love that was just born inside me. And so I pursued uh, classical training until I was 16 years old. Um, Broke my mother's heart when I was 16 and told her that I was more interested in skiing and playing basketball. But I never stopped playing music, and I continued playing as a missionary, and through the time that I studied at BYU, um, and it, there was an interesting experience where I got to play. I graduated in engineering actually from Brigham Young University, and I had the opportunity to play for the commencement. They asked for students, somebody in the engineering department, they wanted somebody to present a musical number. And I had memorized a Beethoven sonata at that point, and I just presented it. They let me play it for the commencement. And there was like in the Marriott Center at BYU, and there was like about 13,000 people there. It was a great experience, and just and so I continued on playing in bands, country bands. My first job out of BYU was in Alabama, in northern Alabama, in a town called Huntsville, which is about an hour and 45 minutes away from Nashville. And so it was when I was living there that a good friend of mine introduced me to the songwriting, the Nashville songwriting scene. And it was something that I was totally unfamiliar with, but I went there and attended a few shows and just fell in love with the genre and the art and craft of songwriting. And and so for a number of years, uh, this was like in the mid 90s to about year 2000. I was an active songwriter, aspiring songwriter in Nashville with a name like Garth. I mean, it was just natural. And so, and people actually asked me if my name was really Garth, and I said yes, I was Garth before he was. And, but and so I had that side of my music. It didn't, I had opportunities in the music business because of my playing ability to play the piano, and I had opportunities to go on the road with some bands. But it was just tearing me apart, both spiritually and family-wise. And I had to make some decisions about whether I was really wanted to take these opportunities or not. And my wife was telling me this whole time, she said, Garth, your talents are with arranging music and doing hymns and things like this, because I would often play in sacrament meetings and present my own musical arrangements. And I didn't listen to her. I didn't listen to her. And so eventually I made the decision that I was going to stop pursuing the Nashville, the country music scene. And it was the best decision spiritually and personally for me. And we eventually moved from Alabama to California. We lived in the Southern California and San Diego area. I lived in Oceanside, California for 22 years. And I was teaching early morning seminary, which I loved that calling. And it was during that time that a lot of people were approaching me when I would play in sacrament meeting, and they'd say, Garth, your arrangements are so beautiful. Other people need to hear these, and you really should consider recording them. And so what I did, I created my first album in 2014, a collection of hymns that were some of my favorites that I had made arrangements of. And I released it on Facebook. It was just a grassroots project, and it was just so exciting to see the response to that. I mean, it was just overwhelming, actually, and it was reaching an international audience. People were writing to me saying, "Oh, we love this. How can we purchase this?" So then I then figured out how to put it onto iTunes and Amazon and things like that. And eventually, I was getting reviews from Deseret News in Salt Lake City and from respected bloggers and people that were just saying such nice things about that first album, that eventually I was signed by a distribution company in Salt Lake City, and they were the means that I had to be able to get my album into Deseret Book, where it was sold in the stores. And so since that time, then I released 3 more albums, and my music focuses on sacred music. I don't say it's hymns, because there's so much sacred music that is not in our hymn book. And so every album I have a total of 4 albums out now. I'm working on a 5th album. Wow. And that album, I'm returning to my classical piano roots. It's going to be called Classical Piano for the Sabbath Day. And it's just going to be classical music that is very easy to listen to. It's soothing and peaceful, and what I consider something that somebody would listen to on a Sabbath day, reading the scriptures, just to provide a background of peace and tranquility, and to invite the Spirit into your home. So, a long story short, though, that's what I have. I have a Christmas album out that I've been involved with the Light the World campaign with the church. Bonneville Communications reached out to me and asked me if I would be a quote influencer for the Light the World campaign, and I've done that for the last 2 years, and I will be doing that again this year as I present a Christmas fireside in Utah. Let's see, it's the 13th, 14th, and 15th of December in Logan, at the Logan Tabernacle in Bountiful on the 14th of December, and in Salt Lake City on the 15th. So, staying busy.
Yes, you are. And by the way, Garth and I are both members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so if you don't understand some of the terminology that we're using, it's because it's like Mormon culture terminology. Okay. But his music appeals to, I was going to say originally all Christians, but really anyone who wants to feel an increase of spirituality in whatever your religious denomination is, because it is so spiritual in nature, sacred in nature. It speaks to the soul and the heart and the spirit, I think.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate that. And I just recently moved from California to Arkansas, and I just love the people here. And it's interesting that you say that, because as I've met many people like on my own street, and they're not members of the church that I attend, but I've told them about my music. And as I go walking my dog down the street, I had a neighbor come running out the door. She said, "Garth, I am listening to you on Alexa every night before I go to sleep. It is
Oh,
just the most peaceful, soothing music. I just love it. I'm sending it to my daughter who has children that they're, for them to listen to when they go to sleep, that kind of thing."
oh,
It,
that's so sweet.
yeah,
Yeah, and in fact, after our conference, I came back home and I was madly dashing to finish writing a book. The deadline was looming and it was stressful, and it was actually a spiritual book. It actually hit stores in December. Yay,
excellent.
so look for that. But anyway, I'm pounding away, and it's because it was a religious, spiritual natured book. I needed inspiration, and so I asked my Alexa to play your music. Oh, she's sitting right next to me. Let's see, Alexa, never mind. Anyway, and by the way, Garth has his Alexa playing in the background so you can hear some of his music.
Oh,
But
you
anyway,
just you just turned it off.
oh no, because I told her never
Alexa,
mind.
continue. There it goes.
So beautiful. But anyway, I wanted to tell you this and thank you for this, because I'm pounding away and I'm like all stressed out. And so I asked her to play your music. And as soon as it started playing, I just had just this calmness, this peace that you're talking about kind of come over me. And I took piano lessons when I was a little girl, but I don't play really at all. But as I was typing, I found myself typing as if I were playing on a piano. And it was like I was in the zone, and ideas and inspiration were coming, and it was coming out through my fingers. And I just imagined you playing the piano. Anyway, I banged that book out so fast.
Oh, wow.
And I attribute a lot of that to you and your inspiration, because the music really opens up those conduits for inspiration.
Well, thank you. I really do believe in the power of music, and that it is kind of what I say, the universal language. And I hear from people all over the world who listen to me that don't speak the English language, and they tell me how the music affects them for good. And so how can that happen, when it's in a completely different culture. And so I just attribute that to for one thing, the great composers, because I do arrangements. A lot of it is not original, but I do arrangements of sacred music that's existing, so I attribute that to the inspiration of the original composers and the beautiful melodies and things that I work with.
It's absolutely true. And I love that you're able to take a piece that already exists and hear more or hear it differently, translate it, create a new arrangement that sounds so new and fresh to us. That's such a talent.
Thank you. Yeah, it's what I pray for. Before I sit down to do any arrangement, I always offer up a word of prayer that the things that I do and the music that I create will be a benefit and blessing to the people that listen to it. And that's what I strive for. I'm kind of through the stage of I'm if things happen where uh, the music gets to more people, I'm happy for that. But it's not something that I need. It's not, I just want those that listen to it to have a good experience with it. And I just it just brings me such joy, literally, to be able to hear the comments from people. Like when you say that, I mean, it's like an answer to my prayers.
Oh,
And I feel like I just want to be a positive influence through music, and to allow people to feel closer to their Heavenly Father, and to have enjoyable music to listen to. So,
well, that's so sweet. And in fact, I was going to ask you, as you prepare to create new music or to make these arrangements, in addition to prayer, what else do you personally do spiritually to prepare? Because it is such a spiritual endeavor. Like, do you take a walk
yes, it
outside, or I
is.
don't know.
That's a very good question, because to me, being an artist, and I think you could talk to an artist who is a painter, or you can talk to an artist who is a musician, you can talk to an artist who is a singer, and it's a very spiritual experience to be able to present art. and to create it. And there is kind of an underlying or kind of an unnamed power that I think that we all try to tap into in creativity. As you as an artist or as a writer may know what I'm talking. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. I mean, we try to tap into this power or influence that will guide and direct us in no matter what it is that we do. And so as a pianist, I am praying. One thing, I mentioned that, but I just also try to live my life in a way that I can be receptive or feel feelings of just goodness, that I can see goodness in other people and strive to create works that will, improve others or help them to have a positive experience in their day as they listen to it. So,
That's actually a really good point. I thought you were going to say something like, you eat a certain food or you go outside or, but living the life that you live allows that conduit or whatever we're calling it, that source of inspiration to hit you at any moment, really. If you lived a certain way, let's say a horrible way, and then all of a sudden you're trying to shift and create this good art, there's a disconnect. So I think that that's a really interesting and really
another thing
insightful.
that I do is that I surround myself with music. And I just am constantly listening. I have music playing in the background when I'm driving. I have music playing in the background when I'm working, and it's often acoustical music, not so it's more background kind of music. But so by being exposed to all kinds of different music, and I play classical music, I play jazz music, I play, I go back to my rock roots every now and then, and country music. I just try to surround myself with music all the time, and by doing that, as an author yourself, I'm sure that you try to read as much as you can. You expose yourself to different ideas, and it's the same concept with music. I just try to expose myself to different ideas, to different approaches that people have, and oftentimes I get inspired by that as well.
there there is something absolutely magical about music. And when I'm I wish I could make music, but I'm a writer, which I wish I could do make
Well,
music.
there's a lot of people that wish they could do what you're doing.
But there is something, like I mentioned earlier, I said the word the zone. I'm in the zone. Sometimes when that inspiration comes, and my husband comes in and wants to talk to me, I'm like, I'm in the zone, and then because you don't want to stop that flood of inspiration when it happens. And then sometimes writer's block is really famous. People get in writer's block. It's definitely a thing. And you just kind of have to push through it. Do you ever get musician's block or pianist block?
Well, if I ever reach a point where I feel like the inspiration is not as prevalent as it was before, I just try to clear my head and just go on walks and again just surround myself with more and more music, and so that I don't really I kind of try to make a disconnect from what I'm actively doing as far as my work, and taking a break, but not taking a break from music, if that makes sense. So I will go on a walk, I will listen to a completely different set of music, and you know I find that really helps. And just the more different types of music that I expose myself to, I just find myself being more and more inspired and feeling the ideas of creativity come in. So,
Yeah, I think that's another really good tip, is to expose yourself to lots of different types of whatever it is you do, music or writing or singing or whatever. At our conference, there was an Egyptian man who played do you remember what it was called? Udu or Urdu?
oh, I don't
I'd
remember.
never heard of it before, and that was so cool.
Yes.
To I love learning new things. Like I didn't even know that that instrument existed. And he said it was really fun to chat with him. He said that he had no idea, nobody else in the world didn't know what it was. You know, he just
Right.
assumed everybody in the world knew what it was, because in Egypt it's like a guitar. Everybody knows what a
Right.
guitar is, but it's shaped differently and sounds different. Anyway, so back to your original story, I have a question that all mothers probably have on their mind right now listening to us, and that is, how do you get your kids to play the piano? Most mothers sign our kids up for piano lessons, and sometimes it works, like in your mother's case, she's got to be so proud. And then other times it's just a battle.
Yeah.
What
I
advice
don't
do
know.
you have for
I don't
moms?
know if I have an answer to that question. That's a tough question because it really depends on the individual, I think. And in my case, I just happened to be one who loved to play and didn't have to remind me to practice, that kind of thing. But I don't know, that's, as I talk to other people, they say that's kind of a rare thing. But
I think so.
I think that our children look to us and the things that we enjoy, the things that are our priorities in our life. And I think that if we make reading good books a priority, then our children will make that a priority in their life. And if we make listening to good music a priority, our children will remember that example. And uh, as they grow up, I'm not necessarily taking lessons or whatever, but they will certainly appreciate those things. I know that I love and appreciate the music that my mother listened to, especially as I get older. I find myself seeking that music out. And my
Oh,
father too. He wasn't so much of a musician, but I remember that he had favorites. And as I get older, I find myself kind of seeking those out. And when I hear something that he listened to, I turn it up and I just like put it on repeat or something
oh.
because it brings back so many good memories. But you know, I guess the answer in a nutshell would be our priorities. What are our priorities? Do we value having our children develop talents? So of course we do. And what is it that we show them by our example in how we develop our own talents? And hopefully that will be something that they pick up on and have a desire to improve their lives because they see the example in ourselves.
Actually, I think that's key. What you just said is helping your kids discover their talents, because as much as I love music, I just can't produce it. I've tried instruments and singing. I just don't have a beautiful voice either. So my mother, of course, had us, my myself and my two sisters play piano. We had piano lessons, and
Right.
I could not stand to sit there and go through the lesson. I wanted to get out and dance. And as I protested, she signed all three of us up for dance lessons. And then, wow, we took off with dance and ended up dancing for many, many years in
Very
different
cool.
capacities. And even with my sons, I've tried to discover their talents. And one of my worst examples of what a terrible mother I've been is, I had a son, I have four boys, and so of course they want to play video games.
Right.
And so as a good mother, I always told this one son, stop playing so much video games. You've got to develop your talents for your future career. And guess what he does now?
I don't know.
He's a video game designer.
Oh, is that
He's
perfect?
he's a 3D animation artist at
Yeah.
Blizzard, which makes these video games like World of Warcraft and
Right.
video games I've never played in my life. Anyway, it's his dream job. He's so happy, and I'm so happy for him.
Well,
Anyway,
I'm sure that you weren't as bad of a mother as you say, but the thing is that you support him in his in his dreams,
we
and
tried, yeah, yeah.
and and once we discover, especially what our children's dreams are, and we kind of try to pave the way for that to happen, and we have to let them make their own mistakes, of course, but we can't do it for them. But yeah, I think that's great. That's a really good example of because we all when I talk to people, and especially like with youth groups, I talk about discovering what your passion is
Mhm.
and really finding out what it is. What is it that if you didn't have to do anything, what would you choose to do? If there was no other demands on your life, how would you fill your time? And what would you choose to do? And a lot of the teenagers that I talk to, they've never really thought about that before.
Watch
And
Netflix, play video games.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah, you have to dig deep sometimes because sometimes they don't know. And so I always felt like as a mom, my job was to expose my children to lots of different things
yes,
and see if one of those things, you know, gravitated to their heart.
right.
That's all we
Well,
can do, right?
yeah. Because I'm a firm believer that every one of us has talents, and we have some gift of some sort. And it's just finding what that passion is, and then once we discover what it is that, if we didn't have to do anything else, we just love. Another way that I use as a measure or a test of what of discovering our passion is, um, how does it relate to time? Like for me, when I sit down at a piano, I lose track of time.
Oh,
And so other people, when they write, they lose track of time. It's like when we find something where it's like time just kind of goes away. I
I
say that
like
is a
that.
really good indicator of a
Yeah,
passion that you
that's a
have.
really great tip. I like that. So, what would your advice be for someone who does feel passionate about music and would love to duplicate your career? Put out either they're a musician or a singer or something with music. What would be your tips to help them with to get into the business and to be successful?
Well, the first thing I would say is to have a very thick skin, because this is a business where you're going to be shot down, and people, you'll come across people who don't believe in you. You'll come across people who will say negative things about you, but if you believe in yourself, just maintain enthusiasm and maintain the dream and the goal and the vision of where you see yourself going, and then with that, again, passion, I love that word passion. With the passion and with the drive and with the determination not to let these naysayers get in the way, just maintain that enthusiasm and keep trying. Don't give up no matter what. It's
Great advice.
yeah.
And one thing I love about watching your career is that you're doing lots of different things. Of course, you're putting out CDs, but tell everybody what you're doing with the firesides. You do a Sunday night chat on Facebook and you
Yes.
do these firesides. So tell everybody how you're doing that because I think that's a really unique way to reach out and find a new audience as well.
Right. Well, what I do, I have made the decision that my whole purpose of my music is to benefit other people and to lift them up. And so, um, I had a very distinct prompting that I should create something that was a multimedia presentation that was centered on Jesus Christ, that I could travel around the country with my wife, and we could share a message about Jesus Christ that was about hope, that was about um, finding happiness and joy through the Savior. And it just happened to have a few arrangements thrown in too. But the real message is not the music, it's not a concert by me, but it is a presentation where we give hope and talk about how that hope is found through Jesus Christ. And so my wife and I, we've been lucky enough to be able to have shared this all over the country. Um, and it's been such a joy and a blessing as people have come to this presentation. It's multimedia, and so we involve the projection of beautiful art while we're speaking. And I've had a professional company create some videos that as I sit down and play a music arrangement, this video is playing in the background that will pop up the lyrics of a particular hymn that I may be playing, so that even if people are not familiar with the hymn, they can follow along and know exactly what it's about. And so it's inclusive for everybody, but whether you're familiar with these hymns or not. And again, the whole purpose of this is to be able to present a positive experience and a spiritual experience using music as the medium. So,
That's awesome. And so now, if somebody wants to invite you to come to their city, do they go to your website or how would they set that up?
yeah, they can go to my website, garthsmithmusic.com, and send me a message, and we can go from there and see how we can make arrangements. If we are presenting this at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's against church policy for me to contact the church leaders. It has to be a word of mouth reference from somebody else, like that person might send give a suggestion to a church leader, and then if the church leader is in agreement, then we can initiate talking and set up a date where I can come.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I was looking at your website, and I wanted to ask you, well, first I'll share.
For Trina.
So did you hear that? That's my Google Home Mini talking. I've got Alexa and Google in the same room, which is kind of crazy, but they do different things for me. Anyway, there's just a beautiful quote on your website. Oh, where's my mouse? There it is. But I also wanted to ask you about the two pictures of Jesus Christ, because I have not seen either one. They're on your home page.
Yes.
I love it. Says, "Let the music speak to you," and there's a picture of Jesus, and he's kind of looking.
Yes.
Actually, I think his eyes are closed, but he's sort of looking up like music is speaking to him. And then the other one is the cover of your single. Anyway,
Yes.
Tell me about the artwork that goes with those and how you coordinate with artists.
Yeah, there's a really nice story. That picture that you're referring to on my website, the homepage of the website, is called Jesus the Christ, and it was painted by the artist John Zamudio, who is from Peru, and he has since moved to Salt Lake City, Utah. And I'm trying to recall exactly how we connected with each other, but some years ago, somewhere, I think that he heard my first album and reached out to me just through Facebook, I believe, and we just became friends. And I was traveling to Utah to do a music performance, and we made arrangements to meet, and it was then that I was working on my third album, and I knew it was going to be an album where every selection that I created an arrangement for was going to be about Jesus Christ. And the title of the album is Behold the Great Redeemer. And I was looking for artwork. There's plenty of artwork that focuses on the Savior. And I just didn't see the one that touched my heart. And although they were very good, but I met with John, and he showed me a picture of this painting that he was working on called Jesus the Christ, and it is the painting, it is the picture that you see on my website. And I just looked, it just spoke to me, and I knew right away that's what I wanted to use for the album cover of my third album, and I chose to use that on my webpage as the homepage picture too. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I can just, if you look at the picture, you see, as you mentioned, you see the Savior kind of closing his eyes. I can just imagine him listening to music.
Listen to your music. Wow.
Well, that would be great too.
Well, clearly he is.
Yeah, and it's kind of the feeling I have when I'm listening to music. Oftentimes I just close my eyes like that and just try to feel.
It's beautiful.
What it is that the composer is trying to tell me, through the music.
I love that. All right. Well, like I said, we could keep talking all day long because I love your stories, and just spending time with you is such an honor. And I'm loving listening to your music in the background while we chat.
Oh, well, I hope people can hear it.
I can, so I think they should be able to. So when I listen to your music lately, I have my Amazon Echo device through Alexa. I'll just ask her to play your music. Oh, she's still playing. I thought she might turn off if she heard me say that. Any time of day or night, I love that. But tell us other places where we can find your music.
Well, my music is available on all digital downloads like iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, anywhere that you have those. That you can find Garth Smith music. I have my website, garthsmithmusic.com, where you can order CDs. If you're in the Western United States, Deseret Book offers my albums, and also online you can order albums through on deseretbook.com. And yeah, so pretty much anywhere that any major download platform. You can find Garth Smith Music.
Okay, and I'm going to share your website here on the screen. It's probably up above where I'm pointing right now.
Okay.
So you can find him. I'm also going to be featuring Garth in my daily podcast that's also available on Amazon through the Alexa devices, called Daily Inspirational Quote. So listen for that. I've got it slotted for December. And you mentioned that you've got your 5th album coming out. When
Yes.
is that going to drop?
Probably, I don't have a specific date yet, but it will be early 2020.
Oh, okay. So very soon.
Yes.
Awesome. So after that project, are you already working on another one?
I've got some ideas, and not ready to announce those yet, but definitely I'm always working on new things. Yes.
Well, I'm sure. That's awesome. Garth, thank you so much for sharing your talents with us and your time with us today. I really appreciate it. It is, like I said, such an honor to have met you, and now we're friends for life. And I wish I were an artist and I could do your cover or something, but I don't know how we could do a collaboration other than just hanging out on YouTube and talking.
Well, thank you, and thank you to your listeners for tuning in. And you know what? What's great about pursuing your dreams and about pursuing your talents and growing those talents is that you get to meet fantastic people, just like I got to meet Trina
And I
through
got to meet
that
Garth.
conference. And if I didn't pursue my music, we would have never met, right?
I know. So, and by the way, if you're interested in the conference that he and I are talking about, it's called the LDS PMA organization. I'll put the information up above or down below right here. You'll see that. And our next conference is next September 24th to the 26th in Utah at Brigham Young University's Conference Center. Are you going to be there next year?
Yes.
You are? Oh,
Yes.
okay. Then I'll see you for sure because I'll be there as well. Are you going to be presenting?
Yes, they
Performing?
extended the invitation for me to present next year. So
All of the above. Okay, me too. Awesome. So we'll get to have dinner again together. Or hopefully I can get you to come to Vegas before then.
would love to.
I'll work on setting that up because that would be so fun. Well, anyway, thank you again so much for sharing your talents, your time, all of the above, and for inspiring all of us and bringing a little more elevated music into our lives.
Well, thank you. It's so great to talk to you.
Well, so before I forget, be sure and subscribe. You like this pillow? I got it from my son. He has several YouTube channels and he's embarrassed to use it, but I love it. Anyway, be sure and subscribe. Do you, by the way, have a YouTube channel?
I do have a YouTube channel. It's Garth Smith Music.
Wait a minute. I can't believe I just asked you that because I've seen it before. And in fact, I saw the video of the new version of Hallelujah, you know,
Yes.
that and where he's got vocals with it. Anyway, it's gorgeous.
Thank
So
you.
I watched that on YouTube. So check out his YouTube channel as well. Subscribe, ring the bell. You know the business. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
All right. Bye-bye.